Manor Lords can be quite brutal, especially at the beginning, and if you are a new player, this video should help you to survive the first 1 or 2 years in the game without too much difficulties and make things a little bit easier to give you some healthy tips on how to build your first city so you don't have to restart the game over and over. Quick note before we jump in here, please keep in mind that this is all based on the early access version of the game without any patches. Things might change down the road, there will be some patches, and then some of the tips might change completely, so please keep that in mind. With that said, let's jump into the first tip immediately, and that is when you set up the game. Right now, the off-map adversary is bugged. What does that mean? Well, the off-map adversary, after a year, starts to take over the regions you are playing in, and they do that now every month till they are crushing you like another year into the game. And you cannot do anything about it because they have such a huge army that even if you're completely focusing on building your army, you would be hard pressed to fight against this. And the developer has already said, this is not how it should work. This is a bug. They're working on a fix and they're hoping to bring that fix with the first patch coming in. But right now it's bugged, so make sure you are deactivating the off-map adversary at the game setup, because again, you don't have a chance to fight back and they're spreading out far too fast. With that said, let's jump immediately into the game. The moment you are in the game, you want to immediately pause the game and open up the map where you started, because if you're zooming out, you can see right here, I'm quite lucky. I got all the necessary resources close by, and I could just start to build my city here and I will get all the resources I need. Now, what can happen is that you are starting in this part of the area and you are starting over here. So you would have to move all your resources and all your people closer to the actual food and the other resources you need. And that's a waste of time. It would take you about 6 months to make this happen. And normally building your city takes 1 to 2 months. If you know what you are doing, I've already been testing this. So do yourself a favor. If you see that you are too far away from the resources you need, just restart the game. It's not worth it. Time is of the essence, and you're wasting your time by moving all the stuff over here. Don't do that. Also, waste of time, if you're already looking at the resources, is this. This is a pretty bad starting position in my opinion, because what I want to see is I want to have at least one rich food resource. Could be the berries or the animals. Personally, I love the animals because they give you food, but they also give you leather you can then use to upgrade your tier 1 buildings, or the people living inside the tier 1 buildings, and make them to tier 2 faster. So this is why I love to have like a rich deposit on wild animals. And the second deposit I love to have is iron or clay, because if you're using iron, you're focusing more on the military. If you're using clay, you are focusing more on the building aspect. Stone, on the other hand, I think it's not worth it. There are not enough buildings who justify stone. Like you need stone for the church, you need stone for the manor, and then later on you need a little bit of stone here and there. But then you have probably already expanded to the other territories, and so in my opinion, stone is absolutely not worth it. But as you can see, I'm pretty unlucky here because I only got 1 rich deposit instead of 2. So this would be already a reason to just re-roll the map that I at least get 1 rich deposit in food and then another rich deposit on any of the other 2 resources. But yeah, do not shy away from restart your game. It can make a huge difference how easy or hard the game will play at the beginning and how high your chances are that you will survive. Now, with that said, when you decide to build your little town, what you also should do is you should click on the homeless people's tent, and you can actually upgrade this to a worker's tent. So what does that do? It's pretty simple. When you don't have houses, people are pretty upset with you and they are homeless, right? And they will get a debuff. So as long as you don't have enough houses, which can take a while, you will lose a lot of approval rating. Was in the wrong category here. Approval rating, and it would take you a little bit to get back that approval rating. That means new families are not moving in, and again, you are wasting your time. But if you upgrade the worker camp, as I already did, it is now counting as a house for 5 families, and you are good, right? You will not lose any approval rating. So with that said, let's talk about some of the houses and stuff you can build. When you build your city, you want to make sure that you are building everything super close to each other. Just build the manufacturing buildings close by, the living spaces. They don't care for noises, they don't care for the smell yet. That is coming through some patches later on, but right now, just make sure that you are building your town as compact as possible, because the people have to move resources physically all over the map. So the further you're away from the actual buildings you need, you're wasting time again. Also, your people have a life. Yes, believe it or not, they will actually take some breaks, they will gather some water, they will get some food, they will just walk around having a good time, and then they have to walk back to their actual working place. So nothing is worse than a person who is walking to their working place and then realize, oh, well, it's dinner time, let's leave again, right? So make sure that you have houses close enough to your production lines, and then you can still rearrange stuff later. Also, speaking about resources, what helps really well is if you need some information about what is going on in your city, and an easy way to get that is just holding tab. As you can see here, when you are holding tab, you are getting the information on how many people are living in the houses, if they're having all the resources, and so on and so forth. So that helps quite a big of deal. Also, talking about resources, please make sure that you are not building too many production buildings or buildings in general close to the wild animals, because yes, they will migrate if it gets too loud. And make also sure that you are not cutting down the trees around the berries, because they will squash the berries and they will destroy the berries till the next season. So please leave that alone. It's not worth it. Also, another thing, when you are starting to build your city at the beginning, do not waste your time on a saw pit. You do not need anything else besides of the timber. You don't need planks. I know in a lot of strategy or other city building games, you have to get the timber first, then you will produce them into planks, and then you can start to build the buildings. But that's not true for Manor Lords, because most of the tier 1 buildings just need timber, and you don't need the saw pit till you're starting to produce the church or till you're building your manor. So keep that in mind when you are starting to build that. But with that said, you should actually have quite a bit of the necessities to survive the first years. Another thing I can highly recommend is leave the farms alone. Like, I know people are like, oh, damn, I have to build the farms very early on. You do not have the people for that, because yes, building up a field and preparing a field is not the problem. The problem is the harvest process, because you have only 1 month to harvest all the resources on the farms, or they will get destroyed. So if you do not have the people to really do this all in 1 month, you're wasting your time and you're wasting resources. So only start to produce really farms when you have enough people to then do the harvest season quickly enough, and not wasting your time and people on just a few ray or a few other resources you are getting from the farms. But with that said, we are done with the video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it was helpful. If you still have some question, let me know down below in the comments. Also, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more Manor Lord videos and more strategy game videos in general, because that's what we are focusing on here in the channel. Thank you so much for your support. I see you next time. Stay safe. Bye-bye.